keynote speaker for this morning session is Dr. Ragan, who's the director of the National Autism Project. Had a brief chat with him earlier, and quite interestingly, he's got a background in neuropsychopharmacology, and he did some work around atomoxetine as well. I'm not sure how much I can say about that, but there were some further studies beyond atomoxetine's current licensing, which is quite interesting. So he's going to talk about autism, and as you can see in terms of our branding as an ADHD foundation, we also do incorporate neurodevelopmental conditions. So autism certainly is the biggest part of that.
This is my fight song.
Sorry, can't get over that. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you about the National Autism Project. It's something I've done very little of because it's a pretty new project. Anyway, I just wanted to start by showing you these two photographs which illustrate the range of the activities we're involved in. These were used as banners at the official launch of NAP, as I shall call it, at the House of Lords in April. And the young man, which is a boy in this photograph, intent on his Lego tower, is a pupil at Queen's Mill School in West London, which is probably the largest state school in the country for children with severe and complex autism. And then this very cheerful chap here is someone who's been supported by the Kingwood Trust, which specialises in adult services. The name Steve Shirley, or Dame Stephanie Shirley, is perhaps known to several of you here. She's a very well-known philanthropist who has given over £50 million of her own fortune to research into autism over many years. And even she still doesn't know which are the best areas to invest in research or in interventions to produce the maximum benefit. And this is one reason for the National Autism Project, of which she was the founder. The second reason is shown here. I've got some numbers here which I hope you can read on the economic impact per annum of, I'll just call them loosely conditions, and the research spend per person affected by them. So I put cancer and dementia because they've both been extraordinarily successful as disease areas in raising their profile in the minds of the public, in gaining media attention, and also in gaining government attention. And as a result, cancer is the most over-researched and over-bloated with money of any disease area that you can think of. By contrast, adult autism, which accounts for 29 billion of the 32 billion annual added cost or economic impact, receives a research spend per person of £1.10p per annum. And I thought about leaving the 10p off, and I thought that's actually 9% of the total budget, so I didn't round it to £1. So the conclusion from this is the research spend on autism is derisory, insulting, any kind of word you wish to use. And the issues that we wanted to address is how do you make a case for increasing it? How do you allocate funding on research and interventions for the greatest benefit? This is particularly acute when the research budget is so small. And then there's another question which we will touch on, which is what does benefit mean and who decides what benefit is? And that's actually a very difficult issue in autism. So what is NAP? We're a project, not an organisation. This is important. We're fully funded by the Shirley Foundation for a fixed period of 3 years. And we neither raise funds nor dispense grants. And the fact we neither raise funds is actually probably an advantage for us, because when we knock on a door, people don't go running because they think we're trying to extract money from them. And secondly, we don't antagonise all the wonderful autism organisations and charities in the UK who are raising money for their own causes. We're not competing with them, we're trying to help them. And so we aim to answer these two questions. What kinds of research and interventions in autism are effective and benefit or could benefit the health and well-being of autistic people and their families and carers? And then how can funders be persuaded to increase their spend on effective activities and, on the other hand, to reduce their expenditure on things which are ineffective? Well, the first question is something that's not new. Lots of people consider this and have for some time. So we decided to, and in addition to that, even if you know what kinds of research and interventions are effective, persuading people to spend more money on them doesn't naturally follow just because you've demonstrated a need. So we decided to address this in a slightly different way. And in answering the first question, in phase 1 of our project, which started in April this year and runs to September next year, we decided to produce an expert report with recommendations for action based on economic as well as social benefits. So we would try and produce an economic case for intensifying research or intensifying interventions in certain areas on the grounds that this could be cost beneficial to the country and reduce some of that 32 billion per annum cost. And in that way, we thought we might be able to engage the minds of government a bit more to focus on where there might be savings. And in phase 2 of the project, which runs from about a year from now until March 2018, we will orchestrate a campaign, both a media and political campaign, based on the economic analyses, on the economic case we made for cost effectiveness, to try and put our recommendations into practice. So that's our modest aim. Who are we? This is our board. Elizabeth Vallance was a head of department of politics at Queen Mary College in London, and since then she was the director of the Institute of Education. She is currently chair of the children's communication charity ICANN, which some of you may be aware of, and she's also the chair of the Centre for Mental Health. So she has a good track record in this kind of area. James Drummond Bone is the Master of Balliol College. He's an expert on Byron, which you may not think is very relevant, but he's also the chair of the Arts and Humanities Research Council, which is definitely relevant to our needs. Richard Horton is the editor-in-chief of The Lancet, and Professor Martin Knapp is our main collaborator. He's the professor of I've forgotten exactly what he is. He's the director of the Personal Social Services Research Unit at the London School of Economics and our main collaborator. Dinah Murray has a diagnosis of autism, and she's a well-known writer and researcher in the field. Bridget Ogilvie is the ex-chair of the Wellcome Trust, ex-chair of the Association of Medical Research Charities. Myself, Stephanie Shirley, who I've already mentioned, Steve Shirley. Professor Emily Simonoff is the Professor of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at the Institute of Psychiatry in London. So this is a pretty distinguished group. I don't apply that to myself necessarily. But they're well connected in the biomedical and social research fields, but also they have the experience and the ability to dig a minister in the ribs when it's needed. And that's really what their most important purpose is. Dinah Murray was invited to join the panel, and she faced the issue, and we faced the issue, of trying not to have a token autistic person on the strategy board. And we didn't want to suddenly all turn around collectively and look at Dinah and say, well, what do autistic people think about this? Because she didn't feel that she was capable of representing just herself, the huge spectrum of interests and priorities that the autistic spectrum exhibits. So she decided to recruit her own panel of advisors. And these people are well known as writers, researchers, bloggers on autism. They all have a diagnosis of autism themselves. They've helped set up charities and organisations. Lena Bucker was the founder of Autiscape, for example. Catriona Stewart founded Scottish Women with Autism, and so on. I'm not going to go in great details. All of them write prolifically. They're well known in the field. And they act as a sounding board for Dinah Murray so that she can come with a rounded opinion, if you like, of the views of what we're trying to do. So, the strategy board then will work with Martin Knapp at the London School of Economics to produce this expert report, and the basis of which is the economic modelling of the impact of current research and practice. And in addition, the London School of Economics will be aided by a group of experts recruited for their specialist knowledge. We have 22 of them so far being recruited to the project. They're not there to represent organisations or bodies, they're there because they are experts in their own right, and will use their opinions to bolster gaps in our knowledge and where the literature is weak, etc. And they, of course, will be in turn linked to the expertise of their parent organisations.